All right, we have system concepts. Article 27, the work of unity and connection. Each person is born into this world with a unique perception that is built by their internal makeup and surrounding environment. This combination creates a beautiful perspective that should enhance others' perceptions accordingly. Each person lives in their own bubble called self-love, where their desired maturity is based on self-growth. This means that they do not take into account the views of others. They negate internally any opinion that does not match their current understanding. However, this is a huge waste of potential, having individuals locked up. Each human lives in their own personal desert, without sharing and collaboration in their minds and hearts. They might collaborate in physical endeavors, but keep their hearts sealed from others for fear of being vulnerable. For unity and connection to actually become successful, more than just a conversation, it requires importance of the self-reward and benefit that we gain from this work. And here's a quote. The thing is that there is no light without a kli, vessel, and a kli means a desire. In other words, when a person has a need and craves to satisfy that need, this is called a kli. Only then, when he has a kli, meaning a desire for some fulfillment, can it be said that he is giving the filling and he is content with the filling that he was given, since this is what he craved. Reward is considered a fulfillment when the craving receives. Moreover, the measure of the importance of the fulfillment depends on the measure of the craving, and by the measure of his suffering, to that extent one enjoys the fulfillment. For this reason, it is impossible to give a person a light that will reform him when he has no desire for it whatsoever. This is because reforming him means he will lose the power of self-love and receive the power of love of others. If a person has no desire to exit self-love, and he is told, do some work, and in return you will have no desire for self-love, he does not regard it as a reward. On the contrary, he thinks that for the work he did for the owner, he should have rewarded him in return for his labor. But in return, he's giving him something very bad, and so much so that he would lose all the self-love in an instant. Who would agree to that? For this reason, first one must study in Lo Lishma, so that through it, the body will assist him, since a person is willing to give up a small pleasure to receive a great pleasure. But by nature, one is incapable of imagining pleasures unless it's based on self-love. Therefore, he is told that he will be rewarded for engaging in Torah and mitzvot. This is not a lie, for he certainly will be rewarded. In other words, he is told that for his effort in Torah and mitzvot, he will be rewarded. And this is the truth, since he will indeed be rewarded, but the reward will change. From the article concerning bestowal, from the book, The Social Writings by Baruch Shalom Halevi Ashlag. Love of others is when we expand our understanding to include opposite views and opinions. We open our heart for feeling the state of others without taking into consideration our own judgmental view. Of course, it will always be dependent on our degree of understanding. This is why we need faith above reason to handle opposing concepts that negate our current reason. This does not mean that we should give up our reason, since our confidence is always anchored to our current perception. Faith is where we can expand ourselves to include the thoughts, emotions, and opinions of others. This is also called annulment, since we cancel our judgment, flaws, and cover it with an inclusive layer of others, love. This is why it is called faith above reason. The higher our reason grows, the more tension we can build of including others within us. We can then benefit from expanded and more mature perception, and have more power to bestow to others. And here's a quote. It follows that one must perform the holy work above reason, because these are the kelim that are suitable for bringing man to wholeness. It was said earlier that only above reason can he take pleasure in the guidance of the Creator, which is in the form of benevolence, and this is called right. As Baal HaSulam said, one must try to walk on the right line, called faith above reason, and picture that he's already been rewarded with complete faith in the Creator, that his organs already feel that the Creator leads the whole world in benevolence. Thus we should ask, why must we walk on the left line too, if the right line is the most important? What is the purpose of the left line? The answer is that it is to know our state within reason, the measure of our faith, how much Torah we have acquired, and how we feel the Creator during prayer, etc. And then we come to feel that we are in utter lowliness, the lowest possible. This is the reason why, when we later shift to the right line, we have the work above reason. In other words, as the left line shows us our state within reason, here there is a room to go above reason. But if we were always in the right line, it would not be regarded as right, but as a single line. In other words, we would think that this is truly where we are, and we would think that we are truly within reason in the perfect Gadlut, greatness, adulthood. But in truth, that only above reason are we in holiness. Hence, when we have the two lines, we can say that there is the matter of above reason, which is the right line. It follows that the right line helps the left line, because once he pictures himself already in gladness, enjoying the perfection of his work, when he shifts to the left line, he sees that he is in a world of total darkness. That is, he sees and feels that he is still immersed in self-love, and that he has no hope of exiting self-love. From the article What to Look For in the Assembly of the Friends, in the book The Social Writings, by Baruch Shalom Halevi Ashlag. If we only cling to others' perspectives without the contrast of our own understanding, we defeat the purpose of the work to reach unity and connection. It is like breathing, where it is a mutual process where neither is more important, but they serve each other to a beneficial result. The more we feel our friend's state, the closer we reach potential adhesion with the Creator. The power of the Creator, called the will to bestow, influences our common center of unity and connection. It is crucial to understand that self-love must be the base and foundation of our work, and we expand it accordingly. Otherwise, we will have no anchor to keep us focused on continual progress towards love of the Creator, of His providence over us. Here's a quote. It is known that it is impossible to see a small object, and it is easier to see a large object. Hence, when a person commits few lies, he cannot see the truth, that he is walking on a false path. Rather, he says that he is walking on the path of truth. But there is no greater lie than that. And the reason is that he does not have enough lies to see his true state. But when a person has acquired many lies, the lies grow in him to the extent that he can see them, if he wishes. Thus, now that he sees the lies, that he is walking on a false path, he sees his true state. In other words, he sees the truth in his soul and how to turn to the right path. It follows that this point, which is a point of truth, that he is treading a false path, is the medium between truth and falsehood. This is the bridge that connects truth and falsehood. This point is also the end of the lie, and from here on begins the path of truth. Thus we can see that to be rewarded with lishma for a name, we first need to prepare the biggest lo lishma not for a name, and then we can achieve lishma. And similarly, lo lishma is called a lie, and lishma is called truth. Letter number 16, from the book The Social Writings, by Baruch Shalom Halevi Ashlag. This is why the work before the barrier is called lo lishma, not for a name, but we expend our desire to reach lishma, for her name. It requires a great vessel, desire, for the self to advance before the barrier. This is because we obviously lack the desire to bestow. This is why it is important not to push our ego aside, but rather learn how to use it to advance. The work to unite with each other is very delicate and nuanced. It requires focus and determination to make a substantive effort to reach the lucrative goal. And the first question, how do we spend our efforts correctly to reach connection? Daniel.
I think it's to have the focus on the goal, on our internality and the Creator within. So once this is in mind, we can start building our sermons.
Gabriel.
um, Realizing that everything that happens, everything you perceive has to do with you. Meaning that do not let things pass aside and just ignore them. And analyze everything that comes your way, and at least have it present, and don't be afraid of ask for help from your surroundings, and try in an active manner to expand that perception of yours through everyone and everything around you. But it's a constant effort of you trying to look for tips and things that help you advance, not just stand still hoping for something to fall from the sky.
Lee.
Yes, exploring and pushing the envelope and being like not afraid to venture out and do different configurations. It's internal laboratory, and so do the experiments. Thank you.
Maria.
Well, connection by itself, to me, it means that you're uniting two things. If there's a connection, and I think that we can expand our efforts or take advantage of our efforts when we don't situate ourselves in one of the two poles, far right, annulment, total annulment, close or suffocate my left, nor being on the far left. So we have to be, if there's a shift that has to happen, there has to be something to shift. So using it and not being afraid, and actually embracing the left for what it is there for to use, and then constantly the right is going to be the right. That's the method we're going to be using, but it will not be effective for connection if we stop or not want to use the left.
Moshe.
I would say, for me, connection is all about basically connecting concepts and widening our perception, where even the concepts could be completely opposite, but somehow they're connected under this umbrella. And our job is really to be open to everything around us, and having discernments on that input, and basically finding the connection within it all, because it is a system that has a goal and purpose, and there is basically everything is connected. Where we might see, how is hot and cold connected? Well, they're connected because they're under this umbrella of the system. So I would say to be open and willing to discern pretty much everything.
Robin.
Right. Like the article said, we are in self-love. We're self-contained, and everybody in phase one and so forth are in that condition, and they're not trying to connect. To connect means to connect to the system, to connect with the environment, and to open our own environment to the environment that's part of the system, to give us greater perception in growing our connection to the system.
Caesar writes, with a group I can reach my potential to reveal the creator within, feeling their states and taking it on in consideration, respecting it, no judgment at them at all. And Andy wrote, believing it's possible and being not afraid. We basically, when we come to the society, we have two parts. We have ourselves, which is normally called the lock, since the reason we come to the society is normally because we feel some deficiency, some lock, something you're trying to break through. And then you have the environment, which are the key. And the society's goal is to give importance of the key. However, a person has to make sure that he doesn't forget why he came to the society in the first place, which is to unlock himself. And that is why he needs to use the combination of the lock and the key. He has to use the environment in order to unlock himself. So you've either got people that really want to unlock themselves and they really want to, and they're dealing all the time with the lock, but they're never actually unlocking themselves. Or you've got people that they are so intensely connecting with the environment and they find the key. They're like, the key, the key, the key. And they never actually try to unlock themselves. You need to use the environment in order to allow yourself to reach connection. Second question. Why does the work require ego to advance? Gabriel.
Well, the ego is what actually right now can manipulate. We can turn, we can analyze, because that's our vessel, right? So, you can only perceive anything just to the extent that you actually perceive your own vessel, meaning that however your vessel reacts to things, your vessel feels like, that's what you can actually perceive. So if you try to take that away, it's like you're blind. So you have to be able to study your ego. You have to be able to see how it behaves and how it's manipulated by the creator. And then eventually you're going to be able to do this as the creator.
Lee.
Well, it appears that the ego is the spiritual material that the Creator has given us to do this work. So it's His design. Pretty simple there, I think. That the Creator's ego, and He dipped Himself in muck and said, "Figure it out, guys. Do all you can to learn how to love your neighbors yourself, and this muck will get you back to me." Thanks.
Maria.
I think the ego gives us focus, a laser focus. And I think that the article began with the analogy that we're in a bubble. And then we go to a stage that says, hey, look, what you're looking for is out here. You have to come out of the bubble. But the ego wants something for itself too. So the only way that it's going to be attracted to going, okay, let me try this, is to make a calculation that there's something for it as well. And I'm thinking of how interesting you mentioned this key in the lock, because for those who don't know anything about the key in the lock, it seems it's really good to reach a place that says, hey, look, here is the key, because it actually is a level up from those that from the society, or the 99% that have no idea about it. Yet the ego still gives us an additional focus and reminds us, hey, why did I want this key for? And then hence still use both. We start with negating that I don't want anything from out there. Now, okay, well, maybe I do, but what do I want it for? And it just gives us focus. It reminds us constantly of this shifting that needs to be done.
Moshe.
And just to add, it's just like in the quote that Rabash put down, why do we need the ego? Why do we need the left line? It's basically also to show you how much faith above reason you have, to give a contrast of, the contrast between the faith and reason. And just give me one. Sorry, guys. Pass.
Robin.
Sorry, I messed up my screen. Your ego is your desire, and it has to grow to advance. I mean, it's impossible to advance if you don't increase your desire to advance. And as you advance, you see your ego more and more clearly and kind of trick it into even growing so you can advance more.
Andy writes, number 1, if you don't have an ego, you don't have a desire. And if you don't have a desire, you don't exist. Number 2, ego is good. Number 3, it's a tool. And Caesar writes, only revealing our ego in its full extension, we would be able to see that we are walking in a false path, meaning we are living in a complete lie. The reason we need the ego is all about separation. It's all about focus, because when you're focusing on something, you're not focusing on other things. So the creator represents everything, and the ego represents something specific. And part of the problem when people want to reach spirituality, which is everything, they want to reach it without a path. They just want to reach everything with everything. The problem is you can't reach everything with everything. You need to reach everything through something, through specifics. If you want to reach a rule, you have to know its details. So the idea is that that's what we mean when we say, the devil's in the details. Right? So the ego is the details, and you need details to be able to get the truth, the rule. Love thy friend as thy neighbor. And the idea is that if you don't use your ego, if you don't use that focus and determination, you will never actually reach the goal. Third question. How do we work with our reason and faith? Daniel.
As I understand it, reason is our first state and faith is our third state. So first is to, within reason, acknowledge and accept our current state, and with faith and with the desire for the ego to become the creator, reach the next step.
Gabriel.
There's this matter of acceptance of through and pretty much what you have received until now, and then there's also the fact that that we have to keep growing, we have to keep advancing, and this only can be done based on something that you don't currently have. And how can you want something that you never tasted or had before? So you're pretty much taking a step into the darkness, because you cannot see how could this be beneficial to you. So this matter of faith would come into place, and for you to hoping that whatever is next for you is actually better, although you cannot perceive it. But you also have to know that you're advancing, and that you actually, that you actually exist, and this is what your reason will tell you. I will not, I will keep things concrete, and I give you a hold onto your current and to reality, because that's what you're perceiving. But you also want to expand that perception, and there's something that does not exist currently in you, and that's why you need that to advance.
Lee.
It's a challenge to do this. I know for me, you want to stay in reason, and it's a safe place, but you're not going to grow. And so it's like you take, you learn from the friends and discern, collect all these discernments, and then it seems that that's just the medium that the Creator has given us to build a platform to the next degree. And then you shove off and you step out into the darkness, like Gabriel said, and you just keep going from degree to degree. And it's quite a game. Fun game. Thanks.
Moshe.
I would say first thing you need to have a goal. Once you have a goal, you look at your reason. You say, "Hey, I don't have it. I don't have this whatever I want," and then have faith that you will have this goal. You will reach this goal. It's basically faith above reason, and basically that's how you can use that. You can use faith and reason to achieve any goal, really.
Robin.
Well, faith would be, your reason would just be yourself. Faith would be in working with, making the connection with the group, with the environment, and so on. But it also can be states. In faith, our state would be on the right line and above reason, and the left line would be in below reason or within reason. And you use them both in the same way, but I think you experience them more internally the second way.
Caesar writes, faith is the feeling that you can feel the others in a good way, even if you don't feel the same feelings. Even if you don't feel the same feelings towards you, we need faith above reason to handle opposing concepts that negate our current reason. We basically have the left line, which is our reason, which is very important. Normally, people that give up that reason, they basically go into their own fantasy, because they're basically allowing whatever they're told to come directly into them without any kind of criticism or scrutiny or understanding even. Because to understand something, it requires you to basically translate it into your own inner language that you understand. Right? When someone says to you food, you immediately imagine certain foods, and somebody else might imagine different foods. So at the end of the day, the idea is to take from the right line, from the environment, all different concepts, and then internalize them within you, which is that left. And then what you're basically doing in that process, you're actually injecting the left, which is the discernments that you've internalized, into the right, back into the environment. And what you're doing in that, you're basically enlarging that connection, enlarging that point in the heart to make it into its full size, which becomes the screen after the barrier.
When you say that we hold two opposing views in our perception, for example, I go to phase 2 and I acknowledge that they desire to become the creator using the quality of their vessels of reception. But like, it's more of an acceptance instead of subjugating myself to that state again. Like I accept this state of stage 3, which is to become the creator, but I also accept that that there's other people in phase 2, and I accept it with gladness. Is that what the concept you're trying to make when you say that, to accept two opposing views?
Phase 2 does not want to become the creator. Phase 2 wants to bestow in the quality of reception. So you've got phase 1, which is humanity, which just wants to receive. Then at some point, someone awakens and says, you know what? I don't want to receive. What I want to do is I want to bestow. But I want to bestow with a quality of reception. I want to bestow already now. With what I currently have, what can I do? I have the quality of reception. I'm going to use that to bestow. That's phase 2. Phase 3 figures out, which is the group, understands that, well, at the end of the day, all I have is the quality to receive, and all it can do is actually receive. So what was it made for if I can't bestow with it? So it was made that I could receive the quality of bestowal. And then when you finalize that desire, which is phase 4, then you actually get the quality of bestowal. And then you have within you two qualities. You have the quality of reception that wants to receive, filling, and you've got the quality of bestow within you, the creator within you, that wants to bestow. It wants to control, it wants to influence, it wants to manipulate the ego. And then you've got a inner conversation between those two qualities within you, between the will to receive, that wants relaxation, doesn't want tension, and the will to bestow in you, which wants tension so it can convert it into situations of power. And that's the opposing concepts.
Oh, so that's the thing of opposing concepts is only after the barrier.
But we have preparation of those opposite concepts in our intellectual beforehand. So before the barrier, it's mostly we have problems in our intellectual with opposing concepts. And then after the barrier, we're actually dealing with opposing desires, you could say.
And there's nothing like that before the barrier, because I've got myself discerning between desires and been able to see how the confusion within them, and sometimes I'm able to arrange them, and know what to act upon.
It is before the barrier. What happens is you're either living in one desire or the other. So when you have opposing desires, you're basically feeling one desire, and then you feel another desire. You're feeling one desire, and you're feeling the other. And then afterwards, you're like, oh, look, they're fighting in between them. It is after the barrier, you're living in two qualities at the same time. You're living in the quality of reception and the quality of bestowal at the same time, and they both do opposite things. The ego receives and altruism bestows. So you're having them simultaneously. So you're not dealing them one after each other. You're dealing them exactly at the same time.
You have two brains to be able to manage both at the same time?
What was your question?
I mean, like, you only have one brain when you can only think about one thing at a time.
That is, you actually think two things at the same time. So you can actually, for example, after the barrier, hear a concept and hear two different implementations at the same time. You'll hear the way your ego will understand it and the way the creator within you understands it.
And you will be able to use both.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And what enables that transition is the screen. The screen allows you to live in both qualities at the same time. Like you're saying now, sounds impossible. Well, that's what you need a screen for.
I would like to stress there's two really important things even before the barrier is to know how important it is to clean concepts, because we tend to think that we are bestowing, and we have to clean the concept. We have to realize that we don't. Absolutely not. There's nothing that we do that is in bestowal, and we have to clean that. And it also, the other thing I wanted to stress is how emotion has to be. It takes on looking at yourself too, because it will target pain points, but nonetheless, it needs to be worked at. Every single thing, owning everything until you come to that realization that you really, before the barrier, you can't bestow whatsoever, because that's what we fight with internally, thinking, oh no, yes I do, I have, look here, I've done this and that, and the only thing that can help is the group to clean those concepts. Yes, it may be painful, but it's needed. It's a needed thing to happen.
I totally agree. And I would say one of the easiest ways to differentiate between bestowal before the barrier and bestowal after the barrier is that bestowal before the barrier, it's basic actions. There's a start and finish to it, right? Let's say I wake up in the morning, and then I go and I help an old lady across the street. See, I did an action of bestowal. I helped another person. It's great. No one's saying you didn't help the other person. But the idea is it's an action. It has a beginning, it has an end. And then when you're sitting on your couch at home, not doing anything, you feel bad with yourself because you're not doing any action. The idea is that after the barrier, you're going to be in a state of bestowal. That means you can be sitting on your couch, doing absolutely nothing, not even doing discernments, and you'll feel good with yourself. You'll feel a state that you're actually making the world a better place just by existing without having to do anything. So instead of running constantly after actions, and then if you're running after actions, they'll probably be very lack of quality. There'll be quantity, but not quality, because quality requires preparation, it requires work. It requires you to not go outside and do actions in order to make a quality product and then go out and help somebody. But that requires you to delay that action and then what you're going to feel until you do it. So the idea is that's why many people that are very altruistic, they do loads of actions, but there's hardly any quality in there and they don't last. So you help the old lady, that's it. Now what's she meant to do next time she crosses the street? What, every time you're going to come and try and help her cross the street? You need to find a more viable solution. So a more viable solution, someone would say, is why don't you, get her a car, or get her a bicycle, get her something to actually, so she can help herself cross the street instead of you constantly having to carry her across the street. And in a state of bestowal, I'm in a situation where first of all, I'm constantly judging the world into merit. I'm constantly agreeing with the way the world is, and I'm working on really learning the method and really cleaning the concepts so deeply within me so that I can help others clean their concepts and help others advance. And instead of trying to help them with corporeal actions, which is what we normally do in bestowal before the Maria, rather what we're doing is we're focusing on really working the method so we can help others stand on themselves instead of constantly trying to do things for them.
Can I ask, what is the screen composed of that keeps these two forces apart? Do you have a perception of what it is? Do you have an awareness of it, a feeling?
A screen, the whole idea of the screen, what does the screen do? The screen rejects, right? It's basically allowing you to receive light, but not allowing it to, which is pleasure, or power, you could say, but not allowing it to reach the most dense part of the ego, the part where you could say the maniacal laugh, the part where you'll be so engulfed in that feeling of power that you just won't advance. You'll just feel so good with yourself that you just stop advancing. So what the screen does is it allows you to still continue dealing with your corporeal stuff, right? Since that's not power, that's just feeling. And not allow the power to be a source of filling. Rather to allow you to always have that place where you want to continue advancing. So you could say the screen stops you from plateauing, because the problem is when we have any kind of touch or adhesion with the quality of bestowal, it makes us not do anything. And that's the problem when you have faith alone without reason. You basically plateau. Why do you plateau? Because you're feeling great. Why are you feeling great? Because look, I'm doing good things. And then you don't need to advance. So the idea is that before the barrier, that's just a play of filling. But when you actually receive power, you need to make sure that it's going to stay as power, not as filling. Because if it fills you, game over. You just won't need to advance anymore. And because it's state, then you'll be done for. Because unlike with an action of a stole, it might make you feel good, but then the action is over, and then you do feel empty again, right? But if you were in a state of a stole and you didn't have that screen, it would be over. You would never be able to advance since you would be feeling great all the time. So then why reach the end of correction?
But the restriction doesn't allow the light to enter the vessel of reception or the vessel of bestowal.
It doesn't allow it to enter the vessel of reception. The phase 4 and the phase 4.
So if there wasn't any restriction, you would plateau, not because you're in a state of bestowal, but because you're in a state of feeling.
You always plateau because of feeling. The question is, what is that feeling? Is that feeling coming from corporeal feeling or from power, from internal power?
So how is this in terms of light of Chokhmah and light of Hasidim.
Light of Hasidim is that we want to use the power to correct our desires. We want to clean our desires. Light of Chokhmah is that we want to express our desires. But the reason why we have that restriction is because we do, basically at the beginning especially, we don't want to use the light of wisdom, because when you're expressing power, that gives filling. So what you focus on, you say, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it into two. I'm only going to use the power to clean my desires, and I'm not going to use it in order to express those desires. And the idea is that this is all done like for you. It's not like you have to think of it. It's not like, oh, oops, by the way, by mistake, I used the light of wisdom. No, the idea is that you cross the barrier, you can't use the light of wisdom anymore. You can only use the light of mercy, which is for correcting your desires. And then you get a taste of that light of wisdom in smallness and greatness, which is basically 2.1, 2.2 after the barrier. Then you go through breaking the vessels, where you figure out what, I'm still not ready for this expression. I can still fall into filling. I still fall back into my ego. And then you basically go through a series of protection, which is atzilut, and then correction. And then when you reach end of correction, then you can already start using the light of wisdom freely, since you've got such a separation within you between the ego and the creator. It's still both are within you. But you have a separation of those concepts and those desires, and then you can express whenever you want, and it won't stop you from advancing.
Light of Chokhmah is received in vessels of reception. Light of Hasidim received in vessels of bestowal.
Exactly.
And after the barrier, we pretty much trying to not receive Chokhmah into the vessel of reception until we're ready for that.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what the screen is for.
The screen continues until forever. The screen allows you to deflect, right? But the idea is that the screen can, by its maturity, the maturity of the screen allows you to use your maturity of your ego, right? So the more mature your screen is, the more you can actually express power without falling into your ego. So you never want to fall into your ego, apart from when you basically, the only point where you have to fall into your ego is breaking in the vessels in the path. And any other time you do it, it's either because you're plateaued or because you fall into a shell. But the idea is, in a normal advancement, the only time you have to actually feel falling into your ego is in breaking the vessels.
But both things bring pleasure, expression, and the other one, Chokhmah and Hasidim.
It's a different kind of feeling. So when you pass the barrier and you feel great with yourself, it doesn't. You could say it's more passive. You could say there's passive power and there's active power. So passive power is using it for correction, for alignment, right? You're aligning yourself to reality. That's a passive thing. Well, let's say you're watching a movie and someone says you have to accept what the movie is showing you. That's passive. And that's called alignment, and that's called light of correction. Then you have active power, which is the light of wisdom, which is expression, where you're making changes in reality. You're using yourself as the creator to bestow to the ego and manipulate the ego to want to desire things more intensively, right? So with passive power, it's filling, but it's not going to engulf you. The problem with active power is it can engulf you. It's like the difference between, you can watch a TV show, right, which is a passive, and you can take drugs, which is active, right? When you're taking drugs, it's an active effect on you, and it basically engulfs you. It takes you into it, and you can't then continue to be in the world. But when you're watching a TV show, you can watch it with friends, you can go to the movies with the friends, you can look at them, you can see how, you see that. You're still in interaction because you're in a passive experience. But when you're in an active experience, you can't interact with your surroundings anymore because it engulfs you. So what you need to do is basically reach that point where you can handle that power, so your desires are corrected. And then, even though you'll be using the power, it won't engulf you anymore. You're able to express and still continue talking. So you're in intense power within you, but it's not engulfing you. It's not taking over you. You're still able to continue to interact with other people.
So basically, the breaking of the lesson of the vessels is a lesson provides us with to use that expression.
I couldn't hear that. Do you want to repeat?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. We can't hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So basically, the breaking of the vessels is something that teach you how not to express the power in a wrong way.
It's how not to fall back into your ego, to basically make you feel the difference between the GE within you, which is the control within you, and the ahab, which is the control, the ego within you. So you can basically say you got the, inside your ego, you basically break into two parts, right? After the parser, you break into two parts. You've got the GE within you, which is your ability to manipulate situations and that sense of control and power. And you've got ahab, which is what you want to control, the situations itself that your ego demands that you want to make better. And the problem is that we go like this. We first, in 2.1, after the barrier, we're in GE only. And we disable our ahab. That means we're only worried and dealing with ourselves and not dealing with manipulation of others. Then we reach 2.2, which is greatness. And this is where we're already using our sense of self as the GE, as the creator, as the controller. But now we want to manipulate the ahab. We want to manipulate others. We want to manipulate other people's desires. Then what happens is we fall from the GE into the ahab. And I give these examples of, for example, when a company is first being built, they're basically in that G state where they have a vision, they want to make a product, and they're moving accordingly. At some point, they reach greatness. They go from smallness to greatness, where they have loads of customers, thousands or millions of customers. What happens then is that they're taking care of the customers, but at some point, they break. What does that mean? That they stop with their vision, and they're constantly focused on just giving like what the customers want. And the problem is that it stifles innovation. They don't innovate anymore. Then normally the company becomes very long-winded, and they put in a lot of different restrictions and processes and all different stuff that really slows everything down, right? And then it doesn't allow the company to move forward anymore because they're constantly dealing with what the customers want now instead of building a vision to bring the company forward. And then what you have to do, a company has to do at that point, is go into protection, which is like Atzilut, where you're saying, we're going to fortify that G, we're going to fortify our values, fortify our vision. And once we've fortified our vision, then what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the customers, but now we're going to use the customers to enhance the vision. We're not here to serve the customers. We're going to use the customers to improve the product. And that's the exact same process we do. We go from smallness to greatness, to breaking the vessels, to a fortified sense of self, of our values and our future, our vision, our goal. And then we can raise our egoistic desires into that vision. And then that's reaching correction, end of correction.
And is it possible to stay engulfed in that state for a long time? Like in that state in which you just, wow, you're the creator, you control everything for like Platon?
The breaking the vessels normally is a few hours max. It's very intense, so it tends to be very short. And normally you have the environment to help you get through it as quick as possible.
Also, the breaking of the vessels is that engulfing in which you become like crazy because of all the power and all you can do.
No, the problem is you basically fall into your ego. So you were trying to take care of your ego, and you basically fall into it. It's like bending over with your phone in your pocket, and it falls onto the floor, right? So you're trying to take care of something. You know, many times before I had this problem where you're in the bathroom and your phone can fall into the toilet. That's because you're bending over. So the idea is that when you're breaking of the vessels, it's when you're bending over to help the GE, right? Bends over to help the ahab, and then basically falls into it. And that's breaking of the vessels.
So the creator becomes the ego? or I shift my sense of self from the creator to the ego.
Yes, you shift your sense of self from the creator to the ego, but you still think you're the creator. And that's why it's called breaking the vessels. And that's what a shell does as well. The shell is when you think you're the creator, but you're actually doing calculations from your ego. So a power down, a descent, is when you're still in the sense of self as the creator, but you feel no power. A shell is when your sense of self is the ego, but you still think you're in that creator domain. And what normally happens is you blame others in that situation, or you blame yourself, and you're just not even realizing that you're basically talking from the ego's point of view instead of the creator's point of view. All right, I think we'll stop here and enter the after party.